Welcome back to the Nullified Take, where I have the TNT takes for you on Australian Survivor. We're in week 2 for Heroes vs Villains, and I think we have seen enough to make some early bold predictions on who the power players this season will be. Now, I know a lot of people would like to believe that anyone can still win this game, but if we do look at the historical evidence, the Australian Survivor editing team have an extremely hard time when it comes to hiding their winners. I've boldly predicted the winner for the last 2 seasons within the first 4 episodes, and I will give them some credit. It's taken me about 6 episodes this time to narrow it down to 5 top contenders. I would like to be wrong, but I do feel lucky, and as sure as George is to talk politics with his tribe mates out there on the island and referencing the Macedonian Jesus, you know it wouldn't be the TNT takes if I didn't make some bold calls myself. Let's get into the players I have my eye on for the power rankings and who I think could win this game outright. Player number 1 is George. Now, George came into this season with a reputation as someone that is untrustworthy and willing to flip and flop between alliances to get on the top. He never found a tribe or a group who wanted him as their number 1. In his first season, he mainly worked with his ride or die Kara, so it would have been understandable if his tribe decided to vote him out early without giving him a footing in the game, especially due to that reputation. The reason he is ranked as my number 1 so far for this season is due to the fact that he has already survived the vote 5 times. The more time he is getting in this game, the more allies he will build, and he will get a better foothold in the game. Let's not forget that in the very first couple of days out there, he lost both of his closest people that he wanted to work with for this season, which was Jackie and Angeli. Not many players would have been able to land on their feet and get out of such a predicament. George has now joined the Spice Girls alliance that I think is planning to take him deep into the game. Shawnee is a perfect ally since she's got the ability to assist George in a way that not many of his allies have been able to do to date. She is a legend in her own right, and it is mutually beneficial for them to work together. He has also reached out over the aisle and have started strategizing with both the Joker and Stevie, which gives him some additional numbers in the game should the alliance with the Spice Girls not work out. He has shown that he is there to win by playing hard, and he already has another dangerous ally in the game when it comes to Haley. Seeing George reach out to Haley multiple times in the game makes me think that they will work together when they get a chance. Haley does need those numbers badly at this stage, so I don't think she's got anywhere else to go. The biggest reason I think George is winning this season, or at least going very deep, is due to the storytelling and focus on him throughout the first 2 weeks. However, the edit that we're receiving for him so far has been one of redemption. They're highlighting him doing well in challenges, something he struggled with in his previous season, and I'm sure he had some criticism coming his way after the show. They're showing him gather the numbers and talking about controlling the tribe, where they could have easily given the credit to Shawnee in her confessionals, since she is also really good at strategizing and in confessionals. The first week was a slow start for him, and I think the editors wanted us to know it's not a walk in the park for him this time around by focusing on how many other castaways wanted him out of the game today. Also, the whole hat in the fire storyline with JLP saying you may come to regret it when speaking to Simon has me thinking that George still has a big role to play in this season. Player number 2 is going to be Sean. Now, I didn't come into this season thinking that Sean would rate high up on my potential winner rankings for the season. However, he's had a great start to the season. He's clearly seen as the person that everybody wants to work with in that Heroes tribe, and he's a natural leader, unlike what we are seeing with Simon, where Simon sometimes imposes his will on others. Sean is naturally attracting people to him. He has the Meat Tray Boys Alliance, who seems to be the perfect fit for him since he's the brains in that operation. He has managed to find an idol that no one knows about thanks to Sam sharing the details. I like that he has something to prove this season, which gives us a big reason as to why he came back to play the game. Trying to play the good old boy the first time around didn't work so well for him in the game of Survivor. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing, and so far no one has caught onto his villainous ways in the game. His observation skills when it comes to sniffing out Haley, looking for an idol, the ability to use her as a valuable number and a shield is next level, and the edit is showing us his great game to date. There is also a promo of Nina talking about Sean being the big tall guy and a target, but I don't read too much into that at this stage. The chances of Sean going home in my mind is next to 0. Will he be able to win in a dominant fashion so closely after Mark's win? That remains to be seen, but the edit sure is loving him at this stage in the game. Castaway number 3, Shawnee. Now, if this was week 1, Shawnee would have been at the top of my list. However, I'm a little bit worried for her since she didn't really get too much content in week 2. She has been, in my mind, the best player in the Villains tribe to date, and have even played a better game than the King himself. But the fact that the edit shows us more of George's game and getting the numbers for Sarah's vote specifically being attributed to George going out there and doing the work, when Shawnee clearly made George aware that Sarah is not to be trusted, makes me think that George is getting a bigger edit at this stage. She's also the person who created the Spice Girl alliance with Liz and George, so she's clearly the nucleus of that alliance. Simon and Geordie values her input, and it seems like they want to work with her. I believe that formed a big part of the reason that Sarah ended up going home, because both Geordie and Simon wanted to continue to work with Shawnee, who wanted Sarah out of the game. Shawnee also has a similar plan like Sean has at this stage to keep other bigger targets than herself within the game, and I think that is the right strategy for her at this point. The longer the likes of a Sean, a Hayley, and a George stays in the game, the more runway Shawnee will have to make a deep run in this game to the end. I think it's a brilliant strategy, and probably the only strategy she could have employed coming back as a 3-time player this season. Her overall social game is probably the best in the game right now, and everyone loves to be around her, and she seems to have disarmed everyone. We've had no one besides Stevie mention her name. Shawnee being aware of Stevie wanting to betray her could also be a very positive thing for her game moving forward. At this point, those are the 3 players I'm the most confident about when it comes to a potential winner edit to date. Moving on to the next 2 wildcard picks though, I do still see these 2 players potentially being winners at the end of the season. One of my wildcard picks here is going to be Flick. She's great athletically, and she seems to be on the same page as Nina and Paige. She's also the only girl we have seen so far having great conversations with Sean to date. I always believe that if a winner was to win the season, you need to be able to see how they operate strategically and who their closest people in the game are, so that you can understand the voting dynamics and how they move ahead in the game. And her having these strategic conversations with Sean gives a little bit more credibility that even if Sean was to get taken out along the way, we can see Flick go on to finish the job he started. Flick is a powerhouse when it comes to the challenges, but the longer Hayley is around, they won't focus on her. So having Hayley there and acknowledging with Sean that she needs to be a shield is all positive things that I'm seeing from Flick so far, and it shows that she is thinking more strategically about this game. Flick is willing to work with Hayley, showing a flexibility, but we have clearly seen that it's an alliance of convenience at this stage with an expiry date. So I don't think she makes the same mistake in dragging Hayley along to a final 3 scenario. She mentioned that Hayley was the person costing her that win the last time, and I think she has plenty more game in her. She's also got a redemption arc around her, so there is a why in regards to why she's playing this game. Now, this last one is going to come across as probably the wildest of wildcard picks, but I still feel confident, even though this person didn't have a very big edit in the second week, that we saw enough of her within the first week to come to a conclusion that she potentially could win this game. And that is number 5, Liz, the only newbie to make this list for me at this stage, because the newbies have been completely outplayed in the game to date, and it would take a miracle for one of the newbies to win, since they're dropping like flies one after the other. Clearly the Spice Girls are in control at this stage when it comes to the Villains tribe, and we see Simon losing power every single vote. Now, if Simon finally gets George out of the next tribal council, which is deemed as the biggest and best tribal council ever to be on Channel 10, there would be a massive shake-up to these rankings. At this stage, however, I'm fully backing the Spice Girls to get one over Simon and voting him out at that tribal council. Liz hasn't had much of an opportunity to flex her strategic muscles in comparison to her physical muscles to date. She's a beast in those challenges, and the edit is making sure we know that. But I think being a newbie, she's learning from 2 legends in the game. I wouldn't be surprised if she continues to grow on the show, and maybe even take control from her mentors in the game. I think being attached to the Spice Girls, she is safe and not going anywhere soon. Seeing George and Shawnee so close to her, working so closely with her, there's just something about Liz, the edit constantly showing her on our screens and making us aware that she's still a part of that trio, that makes me think she could ultimately outlast them. Those are my top 5 power players for the week. Who do you have? Let me know in the comments below. What do you think of this top 5? Who am I missing out on? All of that good stuff. I'm okay if you disagree with all 5 of my picks here for this week. We might do another one of these if you like them next week. And we'll go over if any of these have been voted out or if my power rankings for the top 5 have changed next week. But be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit a like, put a comment on there. It does help with the YouTube algorithm. And as always, see you next time when I do my top 5 takes for the episode 7 greatest and biggest tribal council of all time. Catch you guys then. Bye.